This video was produced with the expertise of David Dennison, an experienced bird writer and researcher. For the full blog post, visit the link in the description.
So, you're thinking about breeding canaries. You've absolutely come to the right place. We're about to go on a step-by-step journey through a canary's entire breeding season, and we're going to use a seasoned breeder's calendar as our guide to help you get it right from the start. All right, here's the game plan. First, we're going to tackle the super important 3-month prep period to get your birds ready. Then, we'll get into the fun part, making the perfect match. After that, we'll dive into how to care for the eggs, and finally, we'll learn how to troubleshoot some of the most common problems you might run into. Let's get started. First up is the prep work. And let me tell you, this is the most critical phase. Everything you do here, it sets the stage for the entire season. You know, real success in breeding starts months, literally months, before you even think about putting two birds together. And this timeline really shows you how much patience this takes. This is not a rushed process at all. Over these 3 months, from June all the way to August, you are carefully and methodically building up the fitness and the vigor your birds need to handle raising chicks without getting run down themselves. So what does this prep actually look like? Well, it really boils down to 4 key areas. First up, feeding. A specific seed mix, and you'll add hulled oats in the winter for that extra bit of energy, but not in the summer because it can make them overheat. Second, exercise. This is absolutely non-negotiable. They need large flights or an aviary to really build up their fitness. Third is light. Natural light is always best, but if you have to, you can supplement with fluorescent tubes on a timer. And last, a super important pro tip. Keep your males and females separate. This is going to stop any fighting and make sure they don't mate before they're in peak condition. And then comes the signal. Sometime in August, you start introducing a soft food, something like egg and biscuit. This change in diet is basically like flipping a switch. It tells the birds' bodies that food is plentiful and, you guessed it, the breeding season is right around the corner. Okay, our birds are prepped, they're in peak condition. Now we get to the really exciting part, selecting them and pairing them up. Let's see how the experts go about making that perfect match. First things first, you've got a choice in your setup. If you go with an aviary, you can pair 1 male with up to 3 females, which actually cuts down on fighting. The only thing is, the results aren't always as predictable. For more controlled results, cabinet breeding. 1 pair per cabinet is definitely the way to go. It just requires a really careful introduction process. Now, for the selection itself. This is a very methodical 6-step process. You start by separating birds based on their feather type. You've got the yellows with tighter feathers and the buffs, which are softer. The whole goal is to pair a yellow with a buff. So you'll pick the best male from one group and match him with the best hen from the other. This helps make sure you get a nice balance of feather quality in the chicks. You just keep doing that until all your birds are matched up, and then you do one final review. Bringing the pair together is a delicate dance, you know? It's all about care and observation. First, you give the hen her nest and some nesting material. Once you see she's starting to build, you can introduce the male, but keep a wire divider between them. This lets them get to know each other safely. If they seem to be getting along through the wire, then you can take away the barrier, but you have to watch them like a hawk to make sure no fighting breaks out. So, the pair is together, the nest is built, and that leads us right into the next phase of our journey. Let's talk about what you need to do once that hen starts laying her eggs. So what should you be looking for? Well, a healthy hen will usually lay a clutch of about 3 to 5 eggs. You'll see these beautiful little pale blue eggs, often with reddish spots, and she'll typically lay 1 new egg each morning. Okay, now here's a technique that the really experienced breeders swear by. As each egg is laid, they'll carefully take it out and swap it with a little dummy egg. Once the last egg has been laid, they put all the real eggs back in the nest at the same time. Why go to all this trouble? It's actually genius. It means all the chicks will hatch on the very same day, giving every single one an equal shot at survival. All right, once those eggs are back in the nest, the real countdown begins. Incubation usually takes about 13 or 14 days, but our source material makes a really great point here. Don't be in a huge rush. Sometimes it can take up to 16 days for them to hatch, so just a little bit of extra patience can make all the difference. And this is the big question every single breeder is asking themselves. Are the eggs fertile? The good news is you don't actually have to wait the full 2 weeks to find out. There's this really neat time-saving technique called candling. Around day 7 to 9, you can very carefully hold an egg up to a bright light. If you see a dark mass inside with little veins, congratulations, that's a developing embryo. If it's totally clear, the egg is infertile. The great thing about this is you can remove the clear eggs and get the pair to start a new nest about a week sooner. Of course, in a perfect world, everything would go smoothly. But let's be real, breeding doesn't always go perfectly to plan. So let's move into our final section and troubleshoot some of the most common issues that might pop up.
Let's start with what is probably the most frustrating one. You've done everything right, but you candle the eggs and they're all clear. Ugh. So why does this happen?
Most of the time, this really just comes down to timing and condition. Either the birds weren't quite in that breeding fit state, or maybe you're just a little too eager to get the season started. The best solution is to wait until that male is singing his heart out. That's the real sign he's ready. Another really practical tip is to carefully trim the fluffy feathers around the vent on both birds. This just helps them make proper contact. Now, this next one is tough. It can be just heartbreaking to find a fully formed chick that just didn't make it out of the shell. So what could have possibly happened? Well, the most likely culprit is that the egg got chilled. This can happen if the hen gets startled off the nest, say by a big thunderstorm, and she stays away for too long. Some breeders also have a theory that sometimes the eggshell might just be a little too hard for the chick to break through, but that one's a bit harder to prove.
Okay, this next one is definitely alarming, but thankfully it's pretty rare. What do you do if you find your hen is weak and has collapsed during her laying cycle?
This is most likely a condition called egg binding, where she's just unable to pass an egg. The best treatment is immediate, gentle warmth. Get her into a hospital cage right away. If that doesn't help after an hour or so, a single drop of olive oil in the vent might do the trick. Now, what's super important here is to never try to remove the egg yourself. And just remember, all that prep work we talked about, that's the best way to prevent this from happening in the first place. And that really brings us full circle, right back to the beginning. This quote from the author, David Dennison, says it all. That lead up, that preparation period, it's everything. It's what gives the birds the strength and the vigor to go through the whole breeding cycle successfully and raise healthy chicks without risking their own health. So we've covered the entire calendar, from all that prep work right through to problem solving. The only question left is for you. Now that you have the roadmap, what's the very first step you're going to take to get your own canaries ready? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and happy breeding.
These are the red factors, the intensive cocks with my frosted hens. Some are on eggs, some are still building nests. There's 10 intensive cocks, 10 frosted hens. This is a red factor cock, intensive, with a red mosaic hen, because I don't have any more spare, I don't have any red factor frosted hens left. There's one sitting on eggs. This one has built its nest already. This is also a red factor cock, 2024, with a red mosaic hen. That's my frosted cock with an intensive hen. There also the cock didn't get any color food. I just acquired him this past 2 months. That is also the red, frosted cock with the intensive hen. And then this here is a also frosted cock with intensive hen. And then this here is a rose ivory hen with a intensive cock. That as well, rose ivory hen with a rose ivory cock. And this as well here, so I've got 3 pairs of rose ivories. And then I've got 3 pairs of red mosaics. They all are sitting on eggs already. She's sitting on 5 eggs. And there's the last one here. These are my agates. There's 3 pairs of agates. And then I've got 7 pairs of Staffords. There's also a pair of Staffords there. Staffords. I'm trying to bring out a lot of red into my Staffords. There's a better market for the red than the darker colors. And then here I've got it's a Isabel pastel hen with a agate cock, because I don't have any Isabel cocks. Likewise there, also one. And then here I've got a red factor cock frosted with a Stafford hen, but she's only got 1 foot. So I just thought I'd put them together and see what comes out. And this one here as well. The Stafford hen there, she's also got 1 foot with a frosted cock. Last year she gave me a cock, which I will show you shortly. Came first place and the second place. There's 2 of them, and the one got a 6 best on show. So he took first place and 6 best red factor on show, rose ivory. He took second place, red factor on show, and they are 2 brothers, the 2 that I just showed you, that one there and this one here. They are 2 brothers, second place. I put him with a rose ivory hen. Then this is also a brother up top there. Because the mother was a Stafford and the father was a red factor, he came out as a red factor. Sorry, he came out as Stafford, so I put him with a Stafford, with this crested Stafford hen now this year, and see what I get out there. So that's the whole setup there. There's 30 cages up there, and then I've got another 4 over there, plus a couple of spares up top there, as you can see in those number 2 show cages. Yeah, so that's my setup.